Hello, everybody. This is David Knox coming to you on our first Monday Administrator and Manager webinar, Monday, October 6, 2014. And I am recording this, and we'll post the recording within a day, maybe sooner, and that way you can share this with everybody else. Thanks for joining me today. I just got back from Santo Domingo. Está Santo Domingo? Muy bueno. Prior to that, I was in Australia for about 13 days, and I'm heading to Nanaimo, BC tomorrow. And then I'm going to be in Seattle with one of our real estate training members, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Northwest. So I'm all over the place, and it's nice to be sitting in my office. So here is the agenda for today's webinar. First of all, our next one is Monday, November 3rd, right before the NAR convention. Today I'm going to talk about October 2014 videos, safety tips. And I want to remind you, the NAR 2014 convention is coming up in New Orleans, and I will have a booth there. I'm speaking there twice, once to salespeople on mastering your listing presentation, once to managers on accountability. And the other thing that I do in the booth is anytime one of our real estate training members come to the booth, we're going to have a camera set up and we'll shoot a videotape promotion. So you and I can stand on the camera and say, hello, everybody, and talk to your office and make it a personalized video, and we'll make it real pretty. And then after NAR, we'll send the file to you, probably put it in Dropbox so you can get it and use it as your promotion. So I'll be sending out more of that information on our booth location. But I'll be at NAR, and I want you to come and say hello. So let us begin our Knox First Tuesday number 79 videos called Market Repositioning. I talked to many of you and said, hey, the market's starting to slow down a bit, showing has tapered off. And given those conditions, I thought, well, it's time to respond with a video. And KFT 79 addresses analyzing activity on your listings. Is it up, down, even? Reviewing the marketing. What have you been doing to get activity? How to schedule a meeting with the seller so you can discuss with them repositioning the marketing of it, adjusting the condition, and adjusting the price. And by the way, we're pretty careful about doing self-promotion of our products, but our new video, Pricing Your Home to Sell, version number 4, is so incredibly good. I looked at the video and said, man, this may be one of our best consumer videos. We kept it right around 18 minutes, and we're going to guarantee a price reduction on any listing in the English-speaking world, or we'll buy it back. So you can see a scene out of it. Early on, I talk about these estimates that are crazy. So we put that into the video as a short clip to teach sellers not to believe those. Then we have our full formal interview with Kathy Koehler and Heather Bortnick. It's going to be Real Estate Live number 23, and there are 5 segments to it. And segment number 1 is up right now, and we're going to put the other 4 up over the next few weeks. We have been busy with lots of new videos. And the one that went up today is building their team. So about 11 minutes of talking how they started, how she built a team. It's really cool. And then in part 2, you'll see personal growth and challenges. And I found part 2 to be very touching because both of these women are breast cancer survivors, and it was a very surprise revelation in the interview. It's very touching to hear how they deal with something that has been a very, very commonplace, unfortunately, and a huge issue to deal with as far as health goes. And they continue on through pre-listing, listing presentation, and finally, how to keep the listing. So watch for those segments as they come out in October. And now for our sad discussion. I'm sure everybody on this webinar and everybody in real estate has heard about Beverly Carter. Beverly and Carter with Crylike Realtors in Arkansas sadly was killed by showing an empty home. And they caught the guy, and it's kind of an ongoing news thing. And it's been really, really sad for all of us. And I talked to Steve Brown at Crylike and just said, gosh, is there anything we can do? And he said, well, we have set up a recovery fund. And I have it on the screen. So if you want to take a screenshot, if you feel like sending something, obviously that would be very much appreciated. So what can we do in view of this? I guess what we can do is try to prevent it from ever happening again. And what I have done over the past week or so is contact a number of safety experts to try to put together a coherent presentation on some safety tips. Much of it is common sense, but we need to be reminded. So what I'm going to show you now, I have created a handout that contains the detail of this webinar. And these are some links. I've got some things from NAR, from Jack Cotton, and a safety expert named Preston Taylor. In fact, if you want to go to Preston Taylor's site, gtpersonalprotection.com, GT stands for Grand Traverse, that's where he is from, and he did a webinar for NAR. And I talked to Preston the other day and invited him to attend this webinar, and he said, man, I'm just booked up, but I'll send you some points. So I took some points from his webinar and I put them into this webinar. And what I'm going to show now is just the bullet points. And to flesh out the rest of it, you can take in fact, let me show you what I've done here. If you go to what's new for October, right here, safety advice, if you click on that link, you'll see the full document. So you can print that out and do what you'd like with it. So what I'd like to do is just go through a quick overview, and maybe this recording can be played in your office. But I divided safety into 3 areas: before, during, and after. Before you ever go out and meet with a client. During, what should you do when you're with them? And the most horrible part would be after. When it really happens and you're in it and you know you're in it, what should you do? So let's talk about advanced preparation. Annual safety training. Preston Taylor said, anybody who deals in things that we do that could be dangerous, we need some kind of annual safety training. I know my wife went through some of that through Junior League. They invited a guy in and he put on one of these big sumo wrestling suits, and he had every one of the ladies in Junior League come and pick a fight with him. He came up and came behind him and strangled them, and they were taught how to get out of a stranglehold and kick and scream and yell, and it was, she posted some videos on it. Tools, at the very least, most of the people say, all of us should have some kind of pepper spray that's easy to get at. Whether or not you have a weapon, I mean, there's a huge debate on weapons in America. I do have my concealed carry permit, and I feel like it's my responsibility to society to be the one good guy with the gun. I don't think it's a solution for everything, because if you're not trained to do that, you're going to get yourself in more trouble than get out of it. But if you know how to do it, like the guy at Vaughn's Food the other day, thank God he was there. He saved the day because he had a pistol with him. He was a deputy. He was trained. He knew how to use it. Some other advice from Mr. Siciliano says, if you're going to preview homes, do it during the day, obviously, when it's light out. And showing homes, maybe you keep it during the day rather than night. Next, protecting yourself with personal information. Make sure that people don't know a lot of your personal information, where you live, and keep your personal life separate from your business life. And of course, that goes right to the heart of Facebook, because every real estate agent I know has posted everything about themselves personally. From my own standpoint, I have segmented my Facebook into 2 distinct groups: real estate, anybody I know in real estate, and personal. So if I've got photos from the holidays with my wife and family, those don't get posted on a public site. So I think we really need to take a look at what we post out there. In watching what you wear, what they're referring to is wearing something that'll allow you to escape. Siciliano talked a little bit about, wearing shoes that you could run in. So that, that gets into some very different kind of things. But if you're going to be out and you think you're going to be in danger, make sure you wear something that you can run in and get away from. What about in the field? This is where most of us listening on this webinar, if you're selling, you're going to be out there. And first step, of course, this came out, every single post talked about, make sure that when you're going to meet somebody for the first time that is a stranger to you, meet them at the office first. Had this happened in the last instant, I don't think the guy would have shown up. So that would have eliminated that possibility. I know it's not always reasonable to do it, but as a lot of people say, forget being reasonable. I want to come home alive. I'd rather have that. So meet him at the office, and then they say, get the information. Vehicle identification. I thought one of the simple things you could do, everybody's taking selfies. Why not take a selfie with the client? Can you imagine that? Having the person come in and say, hey, I want to get a picture of us working together, and then text the selfie to somebody, and then gather information. Many people have suggested that with a client that is new, get a copy of their driver's license, make a copy of it, let them see that you've made a copy of it, and now they know, everyone knows who he or she is. Having come back from Australia, one of the things they do there, I don't think we could pull it off in open houses, but many of the brokers there ask for a copy of their driver's license when they come to an open house. I don't think we'd pull that off in the U.S. But for a showing, maybe that's something you decide to do, and if they don't want to do it, perhaps you don't work with them. That's very much your own information. Vehicle identification. Imagine had Beverly driven up and maybe texted a photo of the vehicle to her husband. I was thinking about that, and I thought immediately, as soon as he felt that little fear, he could have called the cops and said, by the way, this is who she's supposed to be with in that vehicle identification. In fact, had that vehicle identification been out, then when he was in the car accident, that they would have known. So I know a lot of this is 2020, but we're looking ahead, not behind. So next, let others know where you are. Now, Beverly did let her husband know where she was, but I think it's important. I know when my wife and I are traveling, we always text each other progress of our flights. We have Flight Track Pro, and we take a look at where their flights are, and we're in constant communication, so we know what's going on. And somebody should always be expecting you when you're out showing properties if you're in anything dangerous, so people know where you are. Some other advice along those lines: there were a few people that said you should have a code word that you could text to somebody. If you're being held by somebody and they say, call the office and tell them you're okay, needing the code word, say, yep, I just want to let you know I'm okay, and just put the red file on my desk for me. And the words red file are the code for, hey, something's going on here. So those are some ideas that came up. Next, using the buddy system, I truly believe that, I don't want to make generalities, but I think women tend to be more in danger than guys. Seems to be the case, but whatever. If you're doing open houses, if you're showing vacant homes, you're door knocking, things that we should be doing to create revenue, having two is better than one. It just adds another level of security. Next, as we go through showing the property, the advice has been to walk behind the clients. And it's interesting. I had just got done doing a seminar on buyers and say, kind of go alongside them, so you can see what's going on. But if you walk behind, let them go into the room first. That way you're never, ever, ever going to be trapped in any places. So don't go into confined spaces if you have any feelings. And as I'm saying this to myself right now, I'm thinking, if I had any kind of feeling that I shouldn't be in a confined space, I probably ought to be thinking about whether or not I should be with these people at all. Another preparation that was suggested is watch where you park. In fact, I know this. When I drive at night, if I'm coming up to a stoplight, one of the biggest mistakes that we can make is to come up too far behind the car in front of us so we can get penned in. So if I at all think, this could be a little bit dangerous, especially on motorcycles, I always build in a space in front of me. So if something's coming up behind, I can take a left or a right and start thinking of exit strategy. So as soon as I get to a house, I go, well, how would I get out here if I had to? Would I use the front door, back door, side? Is there a back door with a fence that I could not get through? And I want to make sure my car is parked in such a way where nobody can block me in. And then also lock the car so somebody else can't get in it. So then you go get in the car and there's a bad guy in the back seat. So another thing said, have an excuse to get out of there early. Frankly, I don't know if you need an excuse. If you feel bad, you should be scooting on out of there right away. The other idea was mentioned is I like this idea. You're with a client, it's a stranger, you don't know this person, you meet him at the house, and you say, oh, by the way, Mr. Smith, I just need to make a quick call to my office. And you call the office, say, yes, I'm at 2315 Randolph Avenue, and I'm with, Mr. Smith, and this is where I am. So now this guy knows that you know where he is. Next, what if it happens? This is the slide I hope nobody ever has to use, but we've heard about the gift of fear. The benefit of fear is there's a reason why we fear something. We have a sense that something is going on. And when we get these gut feelings that don't feel right to us, we need to act on them. There's a whole science behind that. In fact, Preston Taylor, who I talked about earlier, suggested that we get a book called What Everybody Is Saying. And the author is Dave Navarro, and he's an FBI guy. I've been in FBI profiling and interviewing for 30-some years. So I bought the book, and I'm about halfway through it. And it's really interesting on how to read body language and how to sense when what they're saying is not in agreement with what you're feeling about them. But if you're in a situation where it doesn't feel right, something is going on. Next, I remember Oprah Winfrey had a safety expert on, and one of the things that she said, and I've passed this on to kids of my friends, that if you are in the process of being abducted and they hold a gun to you and they say get in a van, according to the safety expert is, if they're going to shoot you, let them shoot you there. And it was a very morbid answer, but it was true. He said, if they're going to take your life, force them to do it right here, right now. Don't let them take you to the second location. Because if you're going to die, at least you might as well die where they can find the body. And as I say this, I know how morbid it is, but as I think of it, I thought, if somebody's going to take me, if they're going to kill me, you're going to have to do it right here where everybody can see me, because I'm not getting in the van. I'm not going there. And of course, you may not have the choice if there's enough people really strangling you. Arming yourself, kind of repeating what we said in the opening, at least have pepper spray. In fact, I know some women who will take their car keys and spread them between their fingers as a form of brass knuckles. And if somebody attacks them, man, those keys are going into this person. Whether or not you want to carry a pistol, again, you get a lot of debate about that. My personal thing is I'd rather have one and not need it than need it and not have it. And I know if I'm going into, I'd like to be the good guy with a gun. But I also am very, very, very much aware that the odds of anyone being able to actually get at their weapon, make sure there's a round in the chamber and aimed at a bad person before this all happens, in my own experience, I think that's going to be tough to do. But the final thing is to fight for your life. And Preston Taylor and almost everybody says that, man, if it happens and somebody attacks you, you scream, you kick, you yell, you punch, you go for the groin, you go for the eyes, you go for everything, and you fight for your life as though you're going to die, because if you don't, you will. So I think when the worst thing happens, that's it. You take every bit of adrenaline and scream and yell and fight and kick, and do not let anybody take you to the next location. And because there's a whole family of people that are hoping you're going to come home alive tonight, and your number one priority is your life to get home. So this is a quick overview of safety. I know a lot of it, as you sit down in your meetings, it's going to be somewhat common sense, but I think there's some really simple things you can do in terms of meeting people in buddy system. And as I mentioned, the text version of what I'm going through now is, let's go back to, if you go to what's new for October 2014, click on safety advice, and you can download this document. It also has the links to where I got the data. So I want you to know this isn't my advice. I'm not an expert on safety, but the people that I interviewed and talked to, they are, and this is a summary of some of the things that they said. So what I want to do is pause and turn it over to you guys and see if there is anything that you would like to add to this discussion. If anybody has a tip or something that you found to be very helpful, if you want to type it into the question, you may do that. In fact, I think if you raise your hand, or we can do it verbally. So it's now to you. Don Cohen just said, by the way, these safety tips are really important for sale by owner. I agree with working for sale by owners. I think you've got to be very, very careful when you discuss safety with a for sale by owner and talk about the risk, because even though you're trying to be kind and tell them about safety, it still could kind of come off as a self-promotion way to get the listing. But then again, I think if you have safety tips for homeowners, you make a document, give it to for sale by owners, I think that might be appropriate. Does anybody else have a comment? I'm just looking at here's a comment, good comment. Always have a fully charged cell phone. And keep it in a charger when you're in the office. When you're ready to go out on showings, make sure that phone's going to last. Valerie says, never ride in somebody else's car, only yours. Another good advice. Don says, we use wasp spray. It's not considered a concealed weapon, so I hold it in my hand when I go to homes or an open house. Hey, Don, thank you. That's a good idea. Gosh, even little fire extinguishers, those little things, those are pretty powerful too. Those will take somebody out. Suggestion, take a selfie of the client's license plate before you go out and send to the office. I totally agree with that. In fact, gosh, that's the simplest thing in the world. Everybody's got their phones and text. My gosh, take a picture of your client's car. They think twice about hurting me if I can get them from 25 feet away. Yeah, absolutely. Richard just said, we have a patrolman on duty that we send out the phone number so that agents can have them drive by during open houses. Okay, yeah, I have a patrolman on duty to do that. Tess says, I posted our plan in our lobby for clients to see. That's a good idea. That way the clients understand. In fact, I don't want this statement to come across wrong. So please, I think if you have something about this Beverly Carter thing, whether it's a news article or something, and you show it to them and say, by the way, this has happened in our real estate community, and as a result of this, we have changed some of our policies because we don't want this to happen to anyone else. Hopefully they will understand. Amy says, coach your staff to make eye contact with the customer when introduced to them. Will deter someone if they've been seen. In fact, that's interesting. I fly a lot, as you know, and I have watched the pilots come out of the cockpit and greet everybody. And I know it's not customer service. I know they are looking into the eyes of everybody who boards the flight, just as a check, see if anybody looks weird. Keep yourself at a safe distance, says Ryan. This way clients know what we expect, and the agent can blame the broker for asking for the driver's license. Yes. When you're at the house, tell the client that another agent is on the way. Let the client know you're not alone. Never park in the driveway. You could get blocked in. Tess says, shoot first, ask questions later. I want to be very, very careful. And when we start addressing things as serious as shooting, I have my concealed carry permit. And in my class, by the time I was done with my concealed class, I was pretty much advised never use a gun, ever, 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 because if you do, you are in some horribly serious trouble. And if it ever gets into your life where you get to that point, you could be 10 seconds away from committing a murder. And I would not recommend that anybody even consider concealed weapons unless you are absolutely trained. You know the laws, you know the difference between self-defense and murder. And so it's some very, very, very serious stuff. And my feeling is I hope I would never in my life ever have to pull it out or show it or use it. So that's a really touchy subject. But for those of you who are trained, it's certainly a viable option. Some other advice was never go into the house ahead of time. Wait outside of the house for them. The buddy system works. Gosh, you guys are giving some good stuff here. If the customer does not want to come to the office and have a consultation, we won't go out with them. You know what? That's good for both safety and sales skill. I'm not going to be showing homes to somebody if I hadn't had a buyer counseling interview with them. So that works on a lot of scales. And Don said, most will come to the office, but the ones who won't, it's very suspicious. I would agree with that. Monica, hi, Monica. We have a code word to be announced in the office overhead in case there is someone suspicious that comes into the office. Very interesting. Any more open house tips? Question. Pamela was asking about open house tips. If anybody else has any, I guess you'd go through what we've talked about today and apply it to that. I think on an open house, I think I'd want to absolutely have an exit plan and make sure that if for something happens, somebody comes in the front door that we don't like, that we can get the heck out of there and get to the back door. So that for sure goes into the exit strategy on open houses. Tess says code word that is not odd enough to trigger suspicion, i.e., yes, the house was locked. Okay, Amy says, we advise our realtors to leave a copy of their itinerary on their desk each day so we know where they're going. Good information to give the authorities if needed. Great. So everybody, you're out showing your work with people, check in, leave an itinerary, let people know where you are. Every one of you has someone that loves you. Make sure that they know where you are. Oh, Tess said they are all locked. Great code word. I'll leave the code words to you guys. Debbie says, try the Real Alert app for cell phones. And another advice here on open houses, never do them alone. Let neighbors know you are here. I like that. And Kim just said, post a sign out front that states photo ID required to view the home. It's 100% working for safety. It may also be 100% nobody comes in. That's a real tough one because on one hand, I still want to make money in this business. So I need to find a balance between making sure people feel welcome coming in, but also dealing with my safety. So that's going to be one of those tough discussions you're all going to have. Again, open house tip, introduce your neighbors before the open house. They'll keep an eye out for you. I think that's a great idea. You should be meeting the neighbors anyway. A lot of safety tips are actually good sales tips as well. It sounds an alarm and calls 911. Debbie, that must be back to your comment on the Real Alert app for cell phones. Thank you. Very good. Brokers should pop in on their agents. By the way, that's anybody who's broker, owner, manager. You should be going to open houses and watching your agents. I'm going to talk about that at the NAR convention. Question was, did you say this presentation, PowerPoint, and verbal suggestions will be made available? The recording of what we're doing right now will be available either later today or tomorrow. The handout for it, log into the site, go to What's New for October, click on Safety Advice, and here it is. This is just what I've gone through. You know, they had something in here on what to wear, and it focused more on women, and I just thought, you know, it was too sexist, so I deleted it. And I think the part of what to wear that we should pay attention to is make sure that you're dressed in a way where if you had to run, you could. I hope that answers you. Here's another one from Don. In Florida, most homes have a lot of sliders. If weather permits, all doors are open and we constantly moving around the house. We always ask the David Knox questions and let them know this is interactive open house just for fun. We get them engaged. But even criminals could seem nice and fool you, so stay your distance and move around. Thank you, Don. No, I think what's going to happen after this is we're just all going to be aware. But as you know, 3 months from now, there's more news. We get on with our life and we totally forget about it. So I think it's incumbent upon us to remind people at all times that this is a serious issue. I have a question here. Anyone heard of Cuff Smart Jewelry? I'm looking into those devices. Monica, I'll put it out there. Monica asked, anyone heard of Cuff, C-U-F-F, Smart Jewelry? I'm looking into these devices. Okay, if anybody knows. Richard says, keep it in your purse, car trunk. This, I assume you're referring to some kind of weapon. Okay, it looks like everybody has submitted, and I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you for being members of Real Estate Training by DavidKnox.com. On our list now for videos is we need to do a video on safety. We actually had one that we shot a few years ago, and it just turned out to be too weird. It was a guy coming in showing everybody how to use guns, and we thought, I didn't think that was going to be appropriate. Oh, by the way, Connie Hine just promoted use the panic button on your car key to attract the attention of others. Great idea. Gosh, we all have those kinds of things. So I think we're going to raise the awareness in the industry. I know at NAR, I talked to Roz Kriener about maybe having a session on it. But again, this handout that's available on our video, download it, and if you want to, make your own and hand it out. But I think it should be a good discussion in all of your meetings. Valerie just said we invited a local police officer to our sales meeting. He gave us some great advice. All of you have local experts that deal with safety. In fact, let me just go back here. I just want to make sure I acknowledge Preston Taylor with Grand Traverse Personal Protection, because he has done some webinars for NAR. He's done some work at the Michigan Association of Realtors. He's an ex-police officer, so he can be a good source for you. So if you go to his website, you'll see phone numbers and everything else that you need. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to everybody. And if you have some suggestions on what topics you'd like us to cover, please let us know. We're always looking for new topic, and your business means a lot to me. So thank you so much for being members of Real Estate Training by DavidKnox.com. And I'm going to stop the recording right here. Thank you.